Good afternoon. I see that we have some people joining already. So we'll just give it 5 minutes to allow for more people to join in, and then we would start. Okay, so it's exactly 5 minutes, and I guess I would just proceed. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again. I hope we're having a fantastic time. You're welcome to the 14th edition of the Aluko Oyebode Fintech Insider Series. Today, we'll be discussing on a very relevant and I say timely topic themed cybersecurity risk management strategies for fintech startups. My name is Uchechi Ofoegbu. I am an associate in the telecommunications, media, technology, and startup practice group of the firm. And I'll be your host slash moderator for this session. Now, this Insider Series is an initiative of the startup practice group of the firm, and it was developed to drive insightful conversations around contemporary issues relating to the fintech and startup ecosystem in Nigeria. Now, over the years, we've had various distinguished speakers come on this platform to address key issues around this space, some of whom include Yemi Kerry, Kola Aino, to mention but a few. And just like other speakers and other conversations that has been had, this from today's session and today's speaker promises to be worth your while. So I hope that you stay tuned through the end of the session. Our speaker today is a cybersecurity expert. He's a technopreneur, an academic leader, and he's regarded as the first professor of cybersecurity in Nigeria. We have with us today no other than Professor Peter Adewale Obadare. Professor Obadare is the founder and chief visionary officer of Digital Encode Limited. He is a seasoned multi-award cybersecurity and GRS governance risk and compliance expert with over 61 international professional certifications to his credit, which includes Master of Science in Cybersecurity from the Liverpool University, UK. He was also awarded an honorary doctorate degree in cybersecurity from the Trinity International University of Ambassadors, Atlanta, Georgia. And he's a well-recognized subject matter expert with numerous successful engagements to his credit. He's a cybersecurity advisory board member for the Lagos State Government, a platinum team member of Open Source University Security Testing Methodology Manual, as well as a life member of the Open Worldwide Application Security Project. Mr. Obadare has experience around data privacy, data protection, cybersecurity, information security, vulnerability management, penetration testing, computer forensics, business continuity, IT governance, risk management, and compliance. He's an alumnus of the Fage Foundation and U.S. Department of State Exchange Program. He's also a distinguished alumnus of the Executive Education at Harvard Business School, Harvard School of Government, the MIT Sloan School of Government, the MIT Professional Education and Oxford University said Business School. Well, like most of you, God when. Very, very amazing, amazing. So join me in welcoming Professor Obadare. Professor, Prof, you're most welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Uchechi, and thank you for having me on this session. And
Thank you, sir.
thank you to the
Yeah.
leadership of Aluko Oyebode for this great series. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So before we delve right into it, I just want to set some house rules. So we'd like the session to be as engaging as possible, and would like you to take out your pen and paper and make sure that you jot down every useful information we want you to go away from this session, taking back so much. And we also know that you would have a lot of questions. So please direct all your questions to the Q&A chat box on your screen, and be rest assured that we will take them during the question and answer session. However, in the event you are unable to take all of the questions, the answers will be published on our social media platforms for your consumption. So we proceed and would like to delve right into it. So welcome once again, Prof, and it's good to have you on board.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So, Prof, I was doing a lot of research into your field and, the history, your professional background, and all that has gone on so far. And one thing I could see was that as far back as 2004, you started your career in the technology and cybersecurity space, right? In fact, you took up roles like the Forbes Technology. You were an official member of the Forbes Technology Council. You were also a technical partner for the CBN, as well as your well acclaimed title, the first professor of practice. I mean, you see a lot of accolades, but cybersecurity and technology, these were not in things back in the days. So, going through all of this, I would like to know what inspired, the drive for cybersecurity. What motivated you to take up this role, right? And I think it's really important because I'm sure we have a lot of people here with us who are looking to break into this space but don't know how to. So if you could share a bit of your journey with us.
All right. Thank you very much, Uchechi. That one question honestly can take like a whole one day to answer it, but I'll be very brief. Yes, so interestingly, I actually started, I hope everyone can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I am
All
sure
right.
we all can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, so my journey is very interesting, to be honest. So I actually started out as a technology practitioner, in those early days from the year 2000. I was doing Cisco certification. Cisco is certification for network infrastructure, building system. In fact, well, even prior to that, I was building computer system, assemble, because those days, it was difficult. Computer systems were pretty very expensive. To buy computer system were really expensive. So some of us we call it assembling of computer systems. So we'll go to the no computer village. We call it Utigba then. We'll go buy system, couple it. I was customizing it and then move to networking. I was actually planning to be one of the top five CCIE in Africa. CCIE is Cisco Certified Internet Network Expert. But I had a change, in the year 2004 because some of the projects I wanted to do were being handled by big companies, big corporations, and it was difficult. Honestly, the barrier to entry to do mega project, because I've been doing my business that time, it was really huge. It was really huge. I was frustrated, and in the process of that frustration, to be honest with you, because of my background, I had to fast and pray, to be honest. So it was in the process of fasting and praying, and that was how accidentally, but because of the virtue of what I was doing, Cisco practices, configuration, there is a bit of network security. There's a bit of network security, because Cisco Cisco devices where, there's a Cisco firewall, but by the virtue of that, we do network security. So it was in that process of time, and sincerely speaking, after that fasting and prayer, that I now stumbled on enterprise security assessment, and all of that. It's a big long story. One day I was in the year 2005, I was in a bank to support that bank. But that bank is no more now. That bank is called MBM Bank, right? So on top of that bank, I saw a flyer of a training on enterprise security fast track, ACA's perspective. That was the year 2005. And I look at the curriculum. I look at that curriculum and I'm like, wow, this training, we can actually facilitate it. To cut the long story short, got back to the office with my partner. I told him, this training is happening in this organization. Can we? And I went there to approach them that we can facilitate. To cut the long story short, that was how we became I would call it accidental cybersecurity experts, to be honest. That was how we became accidental security. And we now find out, okay, wow, there's a huge gap, right? There's a huge gap. While big corporations in the telecom industry, the banking industry were building infrastructure, nobody were not really thinking about enterprise security. The focus that time was on network security, because by the time people buy firewall, Cisco firewall, everybody is okay. But security, cybersecurity is more than that. It's a layer type of security, right? And that was when, and to be honest, Fast Track, and how we became central bank cybersecurity partner was, both myself and my partner, was that and one thing that is critical when we became the accidental cybersecurity entrepreneur was that the barrier to entry is very little. In cybersecurity, all you need is your intellectual property. Unlike the Cisco infrastructure that was doing, you need huge money to buy those infrastructures, sell it to the banks and all at a margin and all of that. So it became a no-brainer. And that was how I started to build capacity. So by the year 2007, I went to India. I became the first licensed penetration tester in Africa, just to make sure, because in doing cybersecurity, you need pedigree. People will ask you, who are you? And then I became the first licensed penetration tester. And then there was huge fraud in the banking sector that time. Honestly, the banks were just like the way they're losing money now. They were, but on the card infrastructure. In fact, that time, the Nigerian, when the cashless policy came, the banks were using magnetic stripe card. And both myself and my partner, in fact, my partner led that technical research work, find out that the magnetic stripe card that Nigerians were using that time, we demonstrated how vulnerable that technology was. Honestly, it was a game changer. It was a game changer because you can imagine the bank with all the technical know-how and the investment they put in place. And then we were able to, in fact, we were the first individual in Nigeria, in fact, in Africa, we bought the equipment and demonstrated practically how it was possible to clone a magnetic stripe card. And believe me, that was how we became the central bank technical partner on cybersecurity. I think I'll stop there because there is no time.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Prof. So I think for me, what stood out was where you said it was an accidental happening. But personally, I mean, where they say that nothing is ever accidental. So for me, I think it's opportunity meets preparation. So
Yeah.
for me, you were prepared, and when the opportunity came, you leveraged on that opportunity and you saw it through with dedication. I think it's a key thing that for our audience on the call, it's always good to be prepared because you don't know when the opportunity comes knocking. So thank you so much, Prof, for that insight on your wonderful journey. So then my next question is this: the concept of cybersecurity, right? You hear a lot of people, just like you have data protection, IT penetration, and the big terms and jargons, right? You hear a lot of people throwing it around, but not most people understand what that concept is. So we hear cybersecurity every day. I'm a cybersecurity expert. I am a cybersecurity guru. I'm a cybersecurity this and that. So I would like you to explain in simple detail, what the concept or field of cybersecurity is and why is this important?
All right. Great question. So, and just like you said, I'm going to define it. I mean, my response, you might not find it in any book, is the way I define cybersecurity. And in a very simple time, so that to avoid all the technical jargons, I think, my best way to define cybersecurity is a state of well-being. Now, notice well-being of any IT infrastructure, right? And when we're referring to, state of well-being, because guess what? There are a lot of sick systems out there. And when I'm talking about IT infrastructure, I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about all encompassing, from your computer system to your mobile devices, to all the servers in the server farm, the network devices, all the applications, whether it is a bespoke application, whether it is a web application, whether it is APIs, in the entirety of any IT infrastructure, the state of well-being of that IT infrastructure, and essentially to ensure, of course, what we say, confidentiality, integrity, availability, they call it the triad, right? Which is common to everyone, confidentiality, integrity, availability. But then there are other factors that people don't pay attention to beyond confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Is called authenticity of that IT infrastructure, and also factors like non-repudiation. So in a very simple sentence, cybersecurity is a state of well-being of any IT infrastructure to ensure confidentiality, integrity, availability, authenticity, non-repudiation, because just like I said, and think about it this way. When we, as human beings, we have what is called balanced diet. In the balanced diet, you have factors like, mineral, carbohydrate, protein, vitamins, all, to live well. in our state of well-being but when any human being lack most of these essential ingredients in the balanced diet, what happens? If you lack protein today, they will tell you, oh, you're suffering from kwashiorkor. If someone lacks vitamins, they'll say, oh, there's so many deficiencies, gut, so many things. So it's the same way for IT infrastructures. A lot of IT infrastructures, they lack state of well-being, honestly speaking. So if you want, and ensuring that means that it's just a state of well-being of any IT infrastructure. That's the way, and I will define cybersecurity. And why is it important? It is important, just like in human beings, it is important that you live, today, if you're eating too much of carbohydrates, it will lead to what? Diabetes. If you lack, just like I said, if you lack protein, if you lack vitamins, mineral, salt, all those things, it must be balanced. Cybersecurity is very essential in any organization because lack of it, believe me sincerely, is a business issue. The business can be liquidated because guess what? If you don't do the right thing when it comes to cybersecurity, the cyber criminals are there, the bad guys. Most of the time, yes, when we talk about the bad guys, most of the time we think about the hackers. There are internal people as well, disgruntled employees, malicious employees, even within the organization. So hackers are not limited. The bad guys are not limited to the external factors. There are people inside too that want to compromise the systems if there are vulnerabilities or weaknesses within our systems. Because guess what? The third biggest economy in the world today is not a country. When you think about US as the biggest economy in terms of GDP, and you think about China as the biggest economy in terms of GDP as well. But guess what? The third biggest economy is the economy of cybercrime. Because today, if I was at this year, the research work, which is everybody, they quote this thing, people are losing almost $16 trillion, to cybercrime this year. So that means if you don't prioritize cybersecurity, you are going to lose money. And most businesses are in business today. Why? You are in business for profitability. So that means if you don't prioritize cybersecurity, that profit can be taken away by cyber criminals. So that is why we have to prioritize cyber, and of course, beyond losing money, you lose your reputation. You lose reputation. In fact, cybersecurity can cause loss of lives. If it is, depending on the sector, if it is an health sector, if there is a vulnerabilities within a medical apparatus that an hackers can exploit, it can lead to loss of life, honestly. So so cybersecurity is a life issue, is a business issue that we need to prioritize.
Fantastic, fantastic. Just as a recap, Prof, you've said that cybersecurity is the state of well-being of the equipment or infrastructures that these companies or these organizations deal with. And just like the human body, it is very essential that we take adequate care of these securities and protect against cyber threat, because most of these companies, just like you said, they are highly people-centric, right? Because the goal is your consumer, and if you are not able to guarantee the protection of their data, if you're not able to guarantee their confidence in you, if you're not able to guarantee all of this, then of course you lose people patronizing you. And when you lose people patronizing you, you lose money, and you lose your business. So speaking of threats, Prof, speaking of threats, you mentioned about risk and threats, right? So during your experience or from your experience over the years, right? Because, and again, cybersecurity is an evolving area. I mean, it has been there perhaps, but it's not as pronounced as we see today, right? And like we all know, it's due to the rise of evolving technologies that we have today. So, from your experience, what can you say are the emerging threats that we are beginning to see, right, in this space, right, that fintechs should be aware of? So this is a three-pronged question for you. So first is, what are the emerging trends that we are beginning to see in this space that these companies should be aware of, should pay attention to? The second, how can they prepare for the challenges that come with it? And manage the cybersecurity risk that are associated with it. Did you get that those
Oh,
questions?
absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I think in answering that question, I need to lay background, especially when it comes to fintech, because in the fintech environment, there are two types of mindsets in the fintech environment. So, before talking about the emerging trend, because which is actually why I think fintechs, financial services are badly hit anywhere all over the world. Is primarily number one in the fintech or financial services environment. There is this mindset of agile thinking, number one, and then there's also the mindset of I call it dinosaur mindset. So I'll start with the dinosaur mindset. In the fintech, some dinosaur, when you say don't be a dinosaur, right? Don't be a dinosaur means don't be outdated, right? Don't be outdated. And most of the time, don't resist change. Don't resist change. For fintech startups, they pride themselves as innovators, right? In the fintech, we're innovators. We don't want to, we're unstoppable, right? But then in the process of trying to be innovative, which there is no problem with being innovative, right? There's no problem. But the challenge is there is always an innovator blind spots, right? Which leads to them to resist change because they're thinking, because we're innovators, they resist a lot of change, which I'm going to be referencing. And then also, those are some set of people. They are dinosaur set of people. Then number two, there are people, the agile thinkers. Oh, why? Those agile thinkers. Oh, we need to be nimble. We need to be speed, fast, go to the market. Everything has to be on time. No problem. Nobody is saying you should not be agile. But the problem is when you are agile, don't be irresponsible. Don't be irresponsible. And why am I saying don't be irresponsible? Because today, you will see a fintech environment, they have built fantastic product because the emerging threats are number one. Primarily, there are a lot of in fact, technically speaking, we call it vulnerabilities, but for the purpose of the vulnerability means weaknesses within the application. There is no problem with the fantastic way they have built the product, but there are a lot of issues that leads to cybersecurity issues in most of the product. It will interest you that I've seen, one of the things I've seen in, one fantastic product that we tested, because by the virtue of what we do, there's a framework called the OWASP Top 10, Open Web Application Security Project, OWASP Top 10. Guess what? Most of the fintech environment platforms, the reason why that framework came out is because most of them actually have those vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities like SQL injection. SQL injection, what does it mean? In a very simple language, if you, for instance, your mobile app that is on App Store, if you are not parameterizing your query, somebody can download it and harvest all your data, all the customer data. They will launch an attack on it, and they don't need to even come into your network. They will harvest all your network. Then what is the implication? In today's world, Nigeria, we have Nigerian Data Protection Act. So now imagine if somebody can launch an attack, an SQL injection attack, and harvest all your customer data. Of course, you have exposed the data subject that will lead to litigation because you're going to be, that means data protection has been violated and data privacy also has been violated. So SQL injection is one major issue in most of those fintech startups. SQL injection, it's a big problem. You understand? Because why? And this is because a lot of programming vulnerabilities. Sometimes, there is broken access control. Broken access control, there is multi-factor authentication bypass. There are API abuse. There's so many threats ravaging the fintech environment today. Of course, I don't want to talk about the low-hanging ones that are already there, the ransomware attacks and stuff like that. In fact, those ones are, to be honest with you, they are low-hanging fruits. Ransomware, phishing, business email compromise and stuff like that. I call them low-hanging fruits because there are critical issues that impact, fintechs today. Some of them, they practice, honestly, with due respect, that's why irresponsible programming that introduces a lot of vulnerabilities, all the, in fact, business logic vulnerabilities. Just recently, one fintech had a major fraud. Guess what? They spent a lot of time to build this application. Fantastic. But you launch and you went to production. And unfortunately, within 3 hours that they went production, they suffered a massive loss in billions. Why? Because they were not doing proper validation. And what do I mean by validation? There's what is called input validation. In programming, they were supposed to be doing server-side validation, but they were doing client-side validation. And the cyber criminals discovered that, oh, wow, in fact, it was possible. Guess what? It was possible, for instance, imagine, Uchechi, I know your account number. I can be stealing from I can't just launch, there's a tool that I can use to be even, they were just detecting, taking money from other customers. Why? Because there was no proper boundary validation within that mobile app. So there are plethora of, and this is primarily due to what? The programmers don't understand secure programming. They don't understand secure programming. They are good innovators, but they don't understand secure programming. So which enables all of these weaknesses within the 610. So there are, so many of them. In fact, there was another one, one application that we tested. Let me give you this gist might interest you so that you will know that lack of cybersecurity can liquidate any organization, no matter. So it's not, because cybersecurity is about balancing speed and responsibility altogether. So now this application, we are asked to come and test this application. Thank God for that organization, right? When we got there, we asked them, what's the logic on how does this application, how does it work? How is it supposed to function? They explained everything to us. And it was supposed to be a bulk payment application in that organization. And so what does that mean? It means that they were using it to pay, their big customers like Nestle and all of those to make payment to them. And so that means if you don't have money in your account, I shouldn't be able to make payment, right? But guess what? In programming, we now said, okay, let's do the logic reversal to see that what happens if I don't have money, if I don't have money in my account, will I be able to still pay? And what did we do? Now, in programming, there are tools. We use a tool, a global interceptor, to say, okay, let's see whether they were doing the right thing. And we just did minus attack on that application. Because it's a logic test. Minus arithmetically, what does it mean? Is what? It's plus. But guess what? It will amaze you because in logic, in programming, because we're talking about fintech, because fintech is about programming. Let me be honest with you. In programming, you should never violate, in fact, whether it is a mobile app, whether it is a web application, should never accept negative integer. It's there when they are learning, but they don't pay attention. But this application accepted a negative integer. And then that was how we said, wow, okay. So it accepted a negative integer and we did minus 1 million. To even now, that is fault number one. Don't ever accept a negative integer, but the application accepted. Okay, now let's see whether there is a volume restriction, which is the input validation. What extent? We did minus 25 billion. Guess what, Uchechi? This application accepted it. So that means we created 25 billion naira in that app. To cut the long story short, while we're doing the test, of course, the head of operation in that organization was like, what are you saying? You have created 25 billion. Where is the ledger that you have debited? Because in accounting, that's why even the lawyers, everybody needs to understand how technology really works. Because in accounting will tell you for every credit, there must be a corresponding debit. There must be for every, like that. But guess what? In hacking, there is nothing like that. If there is a, note what I'm saying, if there is a weakness that you are violating, because in hacking, you can have credit. In hacking, you can have debit, and vice versa. So to cut the long story short, the head of operation of that organization was like, we're talking nonsense. We said, no problem, let's move. So you should give us an authority letter to move that virtual money, because what we have done is we have created virtual money, we moved it, and in fact, it was when we moved it and the money became legit, we went to the bank and the bank was actually about to pay. So why am I saying these stories? In the fintech sector, there are a lot of irresponsible programming going on. So nobody is saying they should stop innovation. Nobody is saying they should not be agile. But when you are agile, be responsible with your agility by ensuring that you are not building vulnerabilities, weaknesses within the system, because it is these vulnerabilities that leads to those emerging threats that we talk about. Because even today, ransomware, all of those things will not happen if there are no vulnerabilities within the system. Thank you. Yeah, hello. Can you still hear me?
I lost you for a bit, but yes, I think I got the most part of what you said, and really really insightful indeed. I mean, I learned a whole lot, and I'm sure that our audience had a lot to jot down, had a lot to take away, because like you said, I think one key thing that stood out for me is being responsible, right? Not few weeks back, we heard in the news about even the top technology companies being recently hacked and having personal data of billions of people all over the world, jeopardized. So if companies with such technological systems can be hacked, then I mean, talk more of the fintechs or other companies that we have. So I think one key thing is that we have to be responsible, like you said, and we have to put in measures in place and employ the right hands. Another thing you spoke about is knowledge, right? As a practitioner in the cybersecurity space, it's not enough to say, oh, maybe I am the CEO and my job stops at overseeing that. You have to know these things. You have to get trainings. You have to put your ear to the ground to know what is happening in the space. I'm sure most of these emerging trends that you've spoken about, most people are not aware, and like we said, these are threats that we see emerging day by day, and even with the inception of new technologies and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. So it's very key that these systems, these programming systems must be put in place and must be put in efficiently and effectively. So, Prof, on to my next question, and this question would be speaking on emerging technologies. Now, we've seen the advancement of new technologies, emerging technologies, AI, robotics, blockchain, and the likes. And we've seen how companies are beginning to adopt these new technologies in their programming systems. We've seen how they've been able to adopt them to create platforms, applications, So how do advancement and increasing adoption of these technologies, right? How do these technologies like AI, blockchain, how do they impact the cybersecurity landscape for startups? Like, what are the threats, both the positives and the negatives? What are the things that we are seeing with these emerging
Okay.
technologies in the landscape?
AI, okay, Uchechi. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Right. Yeah. So I think the network is misbehaving a bit. Yeah. So the adoptions of those emerging technologies, fantastic technology, blockchain, AI, right? So these are fantastic technology. When you look at blockchain, honestly, I think this is the very first time that a piece of technology we balance the study of computer science because when you're talking about computer science, the technologies that blockchain leverage in terms of cryptography, right? So that's the computer science part. And then of course, law, the law part is smart contract, because, that's what blockchain is bringing to bear. And then of course, the cryptocurrency part, which is why when you look at blockchain, it's the first time in the history of the world that a technology is balancing the field of computer science, the field of law, and the field of economy. So they are fantastic technology. And then, of course, AI. Right. So the point is there will never be a problem with the technology. But where the problem will be is the integrated, so positively integrated, all the, integrated touch point, because integrated touch point means that we're going to leverage this technology. Of course, today, when you're talking about AI, it's going to help a lot in, in so many areas in terms of, removing repetitive tasks, enhancing operations positively. Now everybody's talking about agent AI, agentic AI, you understand? So many things will happen. But where the problem will lie is the integration into our environment. And and those integration touch points is when you will need people, right, that will integrate all of this technology to the environment. And if the integration is wrong, and when you're talking about wrong integration, because there are 4 factors that will determine the integration, and those 4 factors, we call it, ADIO, or digital encode, architecture. The A of the ADIO is architecture, design, implementation, and operation. So, and I'll break them down. Architecture means, because as you integrate this technology, you need to look at your own architecture. How will this fit? It's like, think about when you want to build a house. The first thing you do is the architecture diagram, right? Whether you want to build a 2-bedroom flat or a duplex. So you need to start to think like that and make sure that the architecture is right. Then design. They call in people to come and do interior design of the house and everything. So the architecture is not enough. You need to design. And then when you do all of that, the next thing is what? You need to implement. Implementation is where a lot of people now get wrong. In getting wrong implementation, you find out that there are a lot of misconfigurations everywhere. What do I mean by misconfigurations? Misconfigurations were done configurations are not done properly. It will amaze you that I've been in an environment before that they implemented 2-factor authentication. A 2-factor authentication is a piece of technology that should help you to protect yourself, right? You understand? But guess what? So that you understand what I mean by misconfiguration, they implemented the 2-factor authentication, and it does not expire after 48 hours. So you understand? So what's now the essence of implementing 2-factor authentication if you have implemented that? In fact, it was the attackers that discovered, it was the bad guys that discovered that the 2-factor authentication doesn't expire, and then they hit the bank. And the bank was now wondering, oh, wow, but we have 2-factor authentication. It was during when we're doing investigation, we now said, your 2-factor doesn't expire. Something that was supposed to be configured to expire minimum, in fact, maximum after 5 minutes, it should expire. But so those are issues, even with AI, because today, if you fact checked me right now, NVIDIA, the NVIDIA even suffered a cybersecurity breach. Even NVIDIA, which is building the biggest AI infrastructure in the world. Why? They were not doing proper patch management. And it exposes massive data that their infrastructure is gathering. Why? Because they want to do, that's why that word being responsible matters to me a lot. No patch management was done. Then guess what? If you're thinking only about NVIDIA, today, even Microsoft Copilots, if you Google today, Microsoft Copilot actually has a vulnerability, a weakness to call EcoLeak. EcoLeak, ECHO, then leak, EcoLeak. And that EcoLeak has a way of exposing data subject data. Guess what? Open even ChatGPT as well. has suffered, there was a vulnerabilities within the bugs that they were, the open platform that they were using, and it has a bug that the cyber criminal were exploiting. The same thing with DeepSeek. What's my point? My point is the problem is not AI as a technology. It's like a car. Most of the time when there's an accident, the problem most of the time is not like the car, but if the driver is drunk, or you have not serviced the car and there's a brake failure, so it's the same way we should start to think about technology. So the point is, negatively, if the integrations are not right, it will lead, in fact, the earlier 16 billion massive password compromise that you talked about, that is the kind of sophistication of attack that we're going to be seeing negatively, because now the bad guys too will be using AI to accelerate and increase the sophistication of attack. But just that, the point is, we as organization too should be using the same technology to fortify ourselves effectively to avoid misconfiguration and bad implementation.
Fantastic. I hope you all are having a very good time, because Prof has just been dishing a lot of things. In fact, my notes are getting full already. So if you have questions, please, now is the time to start directing all your questions to the chat box, so that when we begin to wrap up the section, we can take all of your questions. So if you have your questions, please don't fail to put your questions in the chat box. So Prof, thank you so much for those insightful tips, right, with AI. I mean, while the technology is good in itself, it has its good side and it has its bad side as well. So it's very important, like you said, to do those spot checks, to conduct those audits on a regular basis, because you said even the companies that produce these technologies, they are not, they are also susceptible to these harms. Not talk more of other smaller companies or other smaller institutions. So please, let's do well to put in place spot checks, constant regulatory audits on some of these technologies that we create. So moving on, in Nigeria, right, I'm going to bring it back home. So we've seen the emergence, right, and of cybersecurity, right, in Nigeria, with a lot of cyber attacks happening here and there. So, Prof, how would you evaluate the regulatory landscape for cybersecurity in Nigeria? They say that regulator is key to everything that we do, because when there are no good regulations, when when there are no policies, in fact, put in place to govern this space, I mean, these companies, these organizations are unable to perform as effectively as they should. So how would you evaluate the current regulatory landscape, and how can fintechs ensure compliance with these regulations?
Okay, great. So to be honest, and in Nigeria, I think the central bank, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be in the good book of the central bank, I think the Central Bank of Nigeria has done extremely well in responding to what should be done in terms of the regulatory landscape, especially in the cybersecurity area, because there is a framework called the IT standard framework in Nigeria. In fact, Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria was the first institution in Africa to launch such standard. And in that IT standard framework, there are a lot of international standard. For instance, PCI DSS is one of the requirements that the fintech, anyone that is handling cardholder data, that should comply with. But here is the problem. So my first statement is, we don't have a regulation. I'm referring to specifically fintechs and IT standard now. I think we have a robust IT standard framework. But here is the problem. The problem is the fintechs look at those regulatory framework as a burden, which is where they look at it as a burden. That is the problem. The startups, they look at it and, wow, this is burdensome. Oh, PCI DSS. Why should we do PCI DSS? Give us free hand. Let us be doing whatever we like. And that's some people. Some people now said, okay, we don't have a choice. We need to do PCI DSS. And guess what? They will do this PCI DSS as a checkbox. They do it as a checkbox. And despite that they are PCI DSS certified, they are still not secure. I'm being honest with you, because the mindset, they are looking at the regulatory framework, because they look at it as a burden. They look at it as if, let's just do it. My point is, don't look at compliance frameworks as a burden. Look at them as an enabler to progress your business. You should look at them, because what is an enabler? An enabler is what makes something to work. And the best way, because most of this regulatory framework is to help most fintechs to build what we call cybersecurity by design, cybersecurity by default into everything that you do, to your daily operations, because cybersecurity is not just about the technology. Guess what? Because I won't do justice to this session if I don't say the cybersecurity is about the people, process, and technology. You need to make sure that things are balanced. They're like a tripod stand. The people are well trained in security. Your programmers are well trained in secure coding. Your processes are standardized. And then you now have technology. Because now, one saying that compliance framework is an enabler is this. There's so many of them. There's ISO 27001. But let's look at PCI DSS. I'll quickly say something about PCI DSS, because it's something that I see that a lot of organizations have PCI DSS, but they are not still secure. If you look at PCI DSS, requirement 1 of PCI DSS speaks to network security. In network security, that means your perimeter security must be secure at the perimeter to prevent unauthorized people from coming to your organization. Requirement 2 speaks to system security. All the kind of operating system that you have don't have default password, don't have default account, don't have generic, system security. Server, different kind of server, whether it is a Linux server, it is, different kind of servers. And requirement 3 has to do with encryption. And encryption, security encryption at the, so all the data, your storage of data, there should be encryption. Requirement 4 speaks to transmission, transport layer security. Are you using SSH? Are you using SSL and stuff like that? And then you move to requirement 5, antivirus. Requirement 6 has to do with application security. Requirement 7 has to do with access control. Access control, both virtual access control, physical access control, and then requirement 8 has to do with identity security. That every user that goes into your system must have a unique identity. But guess what today? If you go to most fintech, you will see administrator, because what that standard is saying is everybody must be identified uniquely. Don't have generic account that say that, if I'm an administrator, put it there, Wale as an administrator, Uchechi as an administrator. Then requirement 9 speaks to physical security. It speaks to physical security. Requirement 10 speaks to log management. Have log management. Requirement 11 speaks to penetration testing, security assessment. Then requirement 12, policies. But guess what? It's paining me that there is no time because we have 5 minutes. But guess what? All these things I mentioned, I can lecture 2 days on these. Most fintechs will be rather interested in getting certificates. In fact, when you are disturbing them that use this compliance framework to achieve security, they will say you are disturbing us. Just give us a certificate and move on. So there is a lot of certification theater going on, and that is the problem. So the problem is not regulation. The problem is the mindset towards those certifications that has led to security theater instead of building security by design.
Thank you so much. So, in summary, you've heard from our speaker today. Don't look at these regulations as a problem, rather, look at it as an enabler. Let's strive to work hand in hand with the regulator to create these policies and regulations that work for our good, right? Thank you so much, Prof, for those wonderful insights. So, we've spoken a lot about the issues that comes with these technologies. We've spoken about the challenges. We've spoken about even the emerging technologies and the risk that it poses. Now, my question to you is, in all of this, right, I'm sure we have a lot of founders, we have a lot of cybersecurity experts, we have a lot of programmers, we even have legal personnel, we have a lot of people across various industries on this call. So, what would you say are some of the measures, the practical measures, right? The postures, the response plans that companies should take or can take, right, to detect these breaches and respond swiftly to this risk when they arise? Thank you. So,
One word,
Prof, just yeah. So please just keep
one
it.
word, build, I would call it build an intelligent security, intelligent quotient within your system, right? An intelligent security quotient means that have a system that detects, that helps you to monitor indicators of attack instead of indicator of compromise. You know, what most organizations are doing is only when things have gone wrong, that's when they will now be running up and down. No, indicator of attack is even, because there's nothing like 100% security. But when you have an intelligent system that can tell you when somebody is trying to play with your system, it triggers, that's why it's good to have, good log management systems with, threat intelligence system that triggers, an alert that can make you to be proactive instead of being responsive. And just like somebody has been asking, how do you manage risk with partnering third party? Make sure you audit them. Ask them. They should do penetration testing. Ask them, because a lot of times I've seen a situation whereby a third party developed a mobile app for a fintech and they took it hook, line, and sinker. Ask them. They should do penetration testing, do an assessment. There are legal issues, to be honest with you, because penetration testing is about due care and due diligence. And when you talk about due care, it means that do correctly, do to detect that there are no issues, because these are legal issues if you are found wanting. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prof. There is no 100% security. You've heard that from our speaker today. No system is 100% secure. Put the adequate measures in place. So, Prof would very quickly move on to the question and answer session. Due to want of time, we'll just be able to take a few questions. So, I know you've touched on the first question. So, we have here that. I think we have here, how can fintech startups ensure compliance with cybersecurity standards and regulations?
Very simple. Use those compliance framework. Don't deceive yourself. Don't be irresponsible. Use them. They are there. I just mentioned PCI DSS. You can see from requirement 1 to requirement 12, it teaches you what to do. It helps you to make sure to do, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing them the right way? Are we getting them done well? So don't focus on certificates. That would be my message. Don't focus on certificate. Use them. Use them to achieve security because the requirements are there. But people don't want to do the hard work. They just want certificates. Yeah. So there's no problem with those certification programs. The problem is the way people are implementing them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. So I hope that answers your question, Alex. So I've gone through most of this question. I see that he has taken most of the questions. So we'll just take one more question. It says that do you have any recommended cybersecurity newsletter or bite-sized resources to stay updated on the go? And what's your number one go-to resource for cybersecurity education for a lay person?
Wow, that's a tough question because to be honest, my personal is tough because I don't have one go-to. But what I will say to that person is, number one, when it comes to cybersecurity, get your fundamentals right. Believe me sincerely, I've been in cybersecurity now. This would be maybe 26 years, right? The fundamentals doesn't change. And what I mean by fundamentals, see, whatever, whether it is AI, as I'm speaking to you today, why am I not perturbed about AI, blockchain? Because the fundamentals don't change. But the problem with a lot of people learning cybersecurity today is they are starting cybersecurity from the top. And guess what? The only job, the only career that you start from the top in the world is if you are a grave digger. And I'll say that again. If you are the only career in this world that you start from the top and start to build is grave. Those people that dig grave, dig grave. They start from the top. Cybersecurity, you have to start from the beginning. And my recommendation is for anyone on this call, if you truly want to understand cybersecurity, you need to go to the fundamentals. There are programs, you might not write the exam, right? But get a good book on cybersecurity, Security Plus by CompTIA. There is Security Plus, there is Network Plus. Read the fundamental, understand TCP/IP, the protocol that governs the internet, all the security, it opens your mind because that's the foundation. So believe, and that would be my recommendation, because I actually don't because what helped me was because I got the fundamentals right. Believe me, and if the just like the Bible says that even if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? So no matter what you're learning, all those big things, if your fundamentals is not right, that's why a lot of people have problems today in cybersecurity. So get the fundamentals right, and then everything will be a lot easier. So because I have a lot of places that I don't have one source of information. Let me know. In fact, there's so many even newsletters today that when I see them, I just ignore them because some of them even talk nonsense. I'll be honest with you, and that's the danger. So which is why it's good to get the fundamentals right.
Thank you, Prof. Get the fundamentals right. So we've gone past time, so we will not be able to take all the questions. But if you have any more questions, please just drop them in the chat box. We'll get them across to Prof and publish the responses on our
Maybe
social
we should
media
answer this.
platforms.
Somebody is saying, how can small business in Nigeria improve their cybersecurity process without spending so much? You see, based on the scope of your business, you still need to prioritize cybersecurity, because the question this person is asking is like, you are saying that, maybe there's something I wanted to say. Is apologies, Uchechi. A lot of times people talk about cyber. Imagine a car today. Look at cybersecurity this way. Imagine a car today without a windshield. No, I want to end up with this statement. Imagine a car without side mirror. Imagine a car without brakes. Imagine a car without rear mirror. Those are controls. That's why we can, because with your windshield, imagine what will happen to you. Without a brake, how will you drive a car? Cybersecurity has become like that. What is key is, based on the scope of your business, do what is right, honestly speaking, because it will be catastrophe if there is a car today without windshield, side mirror, and everything. Because it's like you want to buy a car, because, okay, maybe what I will tell to you as I round up is, can you buy a car without a brake? If you can answer that question, I think it will make my day. Or they will say, okay, don't worry, this fantastic car is without a windshield or a side mirror. Please buy it like that. That is the way you should start to think about cybersecurity. It's an integrated approach, but buy what suits your scope of business. There is no time. I think we'll continue to engage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Buy what suits your business. So very quickly, we'll be moving on to the other part of this session. It's a very interesting part. It's called the hot seat session. So, Prof, I'll be asking you very interesting questions, and I would like you to answer them. So very quickly, my first question is, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Italy.
Okay.
Honestly, even me, I'm surprised because I just got back from Rome, right? I just got back from Rome, and it's so interesting. I was shocked because everybody talks about US a lot, and everybody wants to go to US. But guess what? I found out that Italy has so many places, that one country with, in Italy, you can, if you like historical buildings, ancient history. Honestly, in Italy, you can go to Rome, right? If you for a romantic environment, there is this place where oh my God, where even the richest man in the world just had his, the founder of Amazon just had his Venice. If you're looking for a romantic place, you go to Venice, one country. There is Sicily, there is Florence. Honestly, I think Italy is blessed. I will not lie to you. So it will be Italy.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hopefully, I get to, visit the place sometime.
You need to.
So, yes.
And then if you love fashion, you go to Milan. Still same in Italy. Still same in Italy. So that means you can spend your holiday, and in 4 weeks you'll be in Italy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I would definitely slide into your DM to give me some of those recommendations.
And
So
at no
moving on.
charge.
Yeah, my second hot seat question to you would be, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Wow, that's a very big question, honestly. Honestly, I think it's actually, yes, Bishop David Oyedepo, because it's actually, I learned a lot. There's a lot of my background that I skipped, but it was Bishop Oyedepo because I grew up, I wasn't born rich. I just released my book too on beating. In fact, if you're saying people that my background was very rough, but when I started going to winners, I think since the year 2000, and his radical faith of approach to life actually changed my perspective to life. To start to see, that's actually why today people ask me, you have 61 certification and you're still not resting. I think I got that habit from Bishop David Oyedepo, honestly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Prof. So before we go, just one last message, just in one sentence, what would you say to co-founders, tech entrepreneurs, people who are looking to delve into the cybersecurity space? So just if you were to leave them with one last message, so what would that be?
My message would be, if you see, knowledge is your most critical asset. And when I'm talking about knowledge, is in two folds, which is a problem today in people wanting to come to cybersecurity. Knowledge, there's the functional knowledge, and also there's the cognitive knowledge. So today you see a lot of argument on LinkedIn. Don't do certification. Paper certification does not make anything. Some people will say, "Oh, I have certification," but then of course some people have certifications, they don't have the practical knowledge. Some people have the practical knowledge, they don't have the certification. That's not my approach. My approach is your knowledge should be both cognitive and functional. Balance theoretical knowledge with practical knowledge if you want to be successful. And it is. So listen, balance theoretical knowledge with practical knowledge. That was what has helped me. That was what has helped me. A lot of people are struggling today because you have a practical knowledge. Let me not lie to you, that job, you will not get it because there are requirements. They will not waive those requirements for you, even if you go abroad. They say, "Oh, do you have CISA? Do you have CISM? Do you have CA?" They won't break it for you. You understand? But then it will be very sad if you have those certifications too, and you cannot prove your worth. Of course, that would be so sad. So balance everything. So knowledge is almost critical asset, but balance cognitive knowledge with functional knowledge, which is simply theoretical knowledge with practical knowledge. And it speaks to entrepreneur as well. Whatever business that you are doing, today, and it works in every field. Look at Aluko Oyebode, to the glory, everybody knows. I've known Aluko Oyebode for a long time. Even because these are successful businesses that outlive even the people that founded them. Why? Because of the knowledge of the business. So it's the same thing. Cybersecurity is a field. You need to build knowledge, and it takes time. It is hard work. Cybersecurity is not for lazy people. That's why a lot of people are frustrated today, because they think, cybersecurity, is the quickest way to make money. It is not. It is not. It is good, it's profitable, but it is hard work, but it is a profitable hard work. That would be my word to everyone.
Thank you so much, Prof. Knowledge is a critical asset, and like they say, knowledge is power. You can never have enough of it. So on this note, I would like to say a very big thank you to you, sir. Thank you for
Okay,
gracing.
sorry, I know we have run out of time. Someone is asking Caesar or season. So those are the issues. See, Caesar, if you want to become an auditor, is good. So the question is not about whether Caesar or season. The question is, which area do you want to practice? Caesar is for people that are going into audit. Season, just like the name, Certified Information Security Manager, for people going into cybersecurity practice. But if you want to become an auditor, so you see, those are, I think maybe we should have another series so that people will know which right certifications to do.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, honestly. So
We've really run out of time.
so it's not visa, Caesar versus season. It is find your sweet spot. Which area do you want to become an auditor, or do you want to become an information security manager? That is the question to ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much for just so much to give away. If you still have more questions, we can always direct it to Prof and publish the answer on our social media pages. So a big thank you to you, sir. Thank you for gracing this edition. Thank you for the knowledge given. Thank you for making our time to make this worthwhile. And to our wonderful audience, thank you for staying through the session. We hope it was worth your while. It was, because I learned a lot. And on this note, I would like to bring this session to a close. Till next time, good afternoon and have a wonderful day. Thank you and bye for now.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for
Thank
the
you, Prof.
leadership. Yeah, thank you.